Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this Honkai Star Rail video. So Clara is one of my favorite character in closed beta testing because she was the main carry of my team in that phase of the game. So back then I replicated a video called Clara the one-man army. So back then I was like fighting Sevarog at a much lower level. So I decided to replicate this whole one-man army team again, right? With Woe 6, with Clara alone, right? Just one unit. So this unit, Clara, right? She's my favorite unit because she's literally the only unit that can do it at this point in time because she's tanky, she can deal damage, and she has damage reduction, which is super important in surviving massive damage coming out from the enemies itself. So first of all, I just want to make a disclaimer, right? This run is not easy. It took me, I'll say, like a few hours to actually get the complete run. So it's definitely not recommended if you don't have the units, the card, or if you don't have the time to do it, right? It is a very time-consuming one. But I managed to replicate it, right? Just one unit, Clara, with level 60 Clara. So I actually seen a screenshot of somebody completing it with level 50 Clara. And I think you can definitely do it if you get the correct blessings, which I'll talk about later, like what are the blessings you want to look out for, what are the blessings I had in my run itself. So I'll talk about it later. Let us first jump into the unit introduction, which is the Clara I use for this run itself. Okay, so here we have it. This is the star of the show, level 60 Clara. So this account is not really mine. I borrowed it from a friend, but I tried to do it at level 50 for 1 or 2 runs, and I realized that the runs were too slow, really not time efficient for me, so I decided to just help him level up to level 60 instead. So this account over here, level 60 Clara, this is the card used. So the card, something irreplaceable, I'll say, is really important for Clara. In a sense, this card not only increases the attack, but provides that little bit of heal whenever you defeat an enemy, or if the enemy hits you itself. So this one is quite important in the earlier few stages where you don't have the blessings to maintain your HP, because you don't have a healer in the team, you're only running one unit. So whatever form of heals or whatever form of regens or shield regeneration in the earlier few stages will be very helpful in surviving until you reach the stage where you can pick a lot of blessings itself. So this card, I'll say, is quite important. Can you do it without this card? I do think you could, but it's just going to make your runs a lot harder if you want to replicate what I did. So that is for Clara itself. Then these are the tracers. So everything leveled up except for the basic attack, because the resources is really heavy. So do save up your resources for the tracers at level 60. Then these are the relics. So we will be using this Champions Chest Guard body, Champions of Streetwise Boxing, because obviously for Clara, this unit is gonna get hit a lot, right? She's not the speedy type of unit. She's the tanky but wait for people to attack her kind of unit. So this will allow you to increase her attack right up to 5 times, and also increase her physical damage because she's a physical damage dealer. So this is the best set for Clara. Then for the planner ornament, we are running the Celestial Differentiator just because it's the most upgraded one. So nothing particular about that, right? Attack base as well as the attack base. So this one gives more stats. So overall, these are the stats of the units, right? This is how the unit looks like in terms of stat wise. So you probably need, I'll say, somewhere close to this one, maybe at level 50 if you have all the necessary equipments as well. I mean the relics as well as a light cone. I think level 50 is also doable. It's just that it's going to be a lot slower and you might fail more along the way. So even for this run, I failed about 2 or 3 times. So it is not easy because you need to get the correct blessings, and the order whereby the elite bosses come out also matter, because there is actually one elite boss that is, I'll say, like not doable if you're only using one unit. So I'll talk about it later. So this unit is also Eidolons 0. So you can definitely do it if it's E0 Clara. So that's for the unit introduction. So next one, I'm going to talk about the things, or rather the key things about Woe 6 itself. If you want to do a solo unit run, there's quite a few things you need to, I'll say, like overcome in order for you to even reach the boss itself. Because for this stage itself, right? So if you go to this initiate stage, you'll be able to see all the different elite bosses you will encounter. So all these bosses, right? Okay, so this boss, Eyes Out of Space, has the ability to constantly freeze you. So you need a little bit of effect resistance, either from your equipment or from your blessings, because if you get frozen too much, right, you will draw out the fight for way too long, and the enemy will actually enter the berserk state, which increases their damage continuously. So there's no way you can survive if you want to go for the infinite turns. It's not possible. So next one, we have the decaying shadow. So this one, it's not a major problem if you have your blessing stacked up. So he is probably one of the weaker one if you encounter him at the 813 or maybe at 613 itself. But if it's the first one, it's also not bad. So these three bosses, I'll say, if you have the blessings as well as all the stuff that I mentioned for Clara herself, they are quite okay. But if you, I was very lucky because for this one itself, I didn't encounter Decaying Shadow. So if you encounter her in the earlier stages, I don't think she is that hard. But if you encounter her towards the end, right, she has this ability called Fragment of something, which just hits super duper hard. Like no matter how I gear my blessings itself, I can only take like 2 hits from it. And there's really no way for you to solo her with 1 unit, because that bullet thing is supposed to like sort of hit like all the targets, right? So you distribute the damage out, but when you only have 1 unit on the field, that unit is going to take a lot of damage and die. So this is one of the main problems I had to overcome. So that's why I failed a few times, because the order of these bosses matter, right? Whether or not the bosses come out at the earlier stage or the later stage matters as well, because I think for Frigid Prowler as well as Arumetan Gatekeeper, right, they are relatively easier even if they are at the later stages of the run, because once you have your blessings up, their mechanic wise, they don't really disrupt you from doing too much. Although this Arumetan Gatekeeper has a disrupt as well, so effect resistance is actually quite important for the run, because other than these units with all the debuffs, right, our dear Cocolia herself has a bunch of freezers as well. So as usual, if you guys haven't seen my Vol 6 guide, I will link up in the card above so you guys can go and see. I'm not going to talk too much about how to do with the boss. Next one, we'll talk about the build itself. Okay, so I'll be including the run as well as the blessings I use in the later part, so you guys can stay tuned for that. But I'm going to talk about the important blessings that you want to include in your runs for you to even have a chance for this run itself. So first of all, if you're running Clara solo, I think the destruction path, right, the elation path, they are really good, but I went for the blessings path because I needed the heal resonance. So that's why I was on the blessings path. And for myself, I ran the dewdrop combo. So basically a bunch of blessings of abundance and then just a lot of heal to keep her healthy. So I'll include the different stuff I had later. So for the blessings of destruction side, I'll say there's a few that are super important, especially for Cocolia's case. So number one, this one, instability strip. This one is very important for Clara because she will always be getting hit. If you're running 1 unit alone, this is very important because you're that 1 unit will always get hit, so you always get to benefit from the energy regeneration, and this charges up Clara's ultimate really fast, which is gonna power up her damage and reduce damage taken from the ultimate itself. So next one, right, another one that is really good for her is this one. So this one is called Eternally Collapsing Object. So like I mentioned earlier, the bosses or the elite bosses have a bunch of debuffs, heal, right, traps, whatever, right? So you want to have as much effect resistance as possible so that you don't get frozen to death, you don't get held in position to death. So effect resistance is going to be really important, and that's one way you can get it. So there's another way on this path that you can get effect resistance. Give me a moment. I think it's no, not this one. I think it's not here. Yeah, it's not here. It is probably in the preservation side. So preservation side has this buff which allows you to, yeah, this one. So construct rotation. So this one is very, very important. It was used in the preservation bomb build, and if you have a way to get a blessing to generate shield, then this one will be good for you because this allows your character to have a 30% chance to dispel 1 debuff. So for Colia's fight, right, she will be able to freeze you. If you have a way to generate shield from there, you'll be able to dispel the freeze, and then that's where your character don't get stuck, because frozen is a very powerful debuff when you only have 1 unit because it just eats up your whole turn, which is super scary. I think there's another blessing that removes a debuff. Give me a moment. I think it's inside this one. There is one more. Like, if I remember correctly, I saw one, but I can't remember what is it. So do remember, number one, you need some sort of dispel, some sort of effect resistance boost to survive through it. So that's basically if you want to succeed, right? Then for myself, I went for the preservation of abundance side. So the abundance side is quite straightforward. Like she just heals and heals and heals and keep Clara healthy. And then for Clara's case, she'll just retaliate and kill the enemy. So for the run itself, personally, I think you got to find a balance between having enough offense while surviving in the earlier stages of the game. Because one thing that I realized on my first 3 failed attempts is even if I'm able to survive, but if I'm not able to hit the enemy too hard, they will enter the berserk mode, which greatly increases their damage and then kills me from there. So that's why I failed in the first 3 run, not because I wasn't able to survive, but I wasn't able to finish off the enemy too quickly. So that's for the thing. And another thing to take note of for the run itself, I'll say the quality of the blessings don't matter too much. You just want to have as many different types of blessings as possible. So always go for the combat path if you can. And that is for the general, the blessings path. So on screen, I'll just include the blessings I use for this run so that you guys can see it for yourself. Basically, it's a very standard abundance over heal type of concept for Clara to survive. Now, lastly, for the gameplay portion. So, gameplay portion, I don't think in terms of combat, there's much to take note of, right? You have to build up your blessings. You have to choose the correct blessings for this run to work, because if you don't have enough damage, it's not going to work. If you can't survive the earlier stages before you even reach the boss, it's not going to work. If you don't have effect resistance and you get stalked out by the freeze itself, it's not going to work as well. So gameplay portion, choosing the right blessings for effect resistance, right? Choosing the right blessing to give you damage to gauge your run itself is super crucial. And lastly, you do need a little bit of stats for this one. Like you can't replicate it without the stats, right? You can't replicate it without the cards, because you can, but the time taken could be way higher, which is honestly speaking not worth it. Like, why would you want to do it unless you're a crazy person like myself? So that's that, right? I would encourage you to do it. If you want to like sort of create content, if you want to make videos, you want to show off, you can, but like it's really not recommended. So that is just I'll say like TLDR from me. And without further ado, let's just jump into the phase 2 of the battle itself. And thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like and subscribe in order to see more Honkai Star Rail contents, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.
Stay back, Clara. Are you alright?
Judgment of eternal winter.
Stay back, Clara.
I want to protect everyone too, Mr. Clara. Freeze to death. You are doomed to fail. A world devoured by ice.
Are you alright? Is your command?
Feel the freeze.
Stay back, Clara.
The eternal freeze will bury you.
Stay back, Clara.
I want to protect everyone too, Mr. Clara.
Are you alright? Is your command?
I'm not afraid of you.
Annihilate.
Judgment of eternal winter.
Is your command?
Freeze to death.
Stay back, Clara.
I want to protect everyone too, Mr. Clara. Tremble before my power. A world devoured by ice.
Is your command? Are you alright?
I'm okay.
Is your command?
I hope I helped.